Thank you. 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 Hello? I don't know what just happened. My mic wasn't working, and then I fiddled with the thing, and now we're back. So, great. I don't know what just happened. My mic wasn't working, and then I fiddled with the thing, and now we're back. Let me just get this in a good spot. Okay. Hi, everyone. All right. Okay, hi. So, like I said, hi. Happy Thursday. Hope we're all doing well. Goddamn, it's been quite a hot second since I've done a read aloud stream, but it's all good. Um, yeah. Um, we are making our way through this book. I'd say we're about halfway, I think. Yeah. This is what we've read so far. This is what we still have to go. So, about over halfway, I would say, a little bit. But today we are going to read the remainder of volume 2 of Pride and Prejudice, which I learned recently. Other editions of this book don't have volumes. The chapter numbers just keep going up. So if it would be helpful for if it would be at all helpful in the video logs of these streams for them, rather than being called volumes, just have the chapters continue like it would in other editions, please let me know. And I will make that change. But for now, hi, happy Thursday. It's been a day, y'all. It's been quite the day, so I'm excited to be here chilling. I've got lemon tea with honey, and I've got a good book in front of me, so nothing can go wrong anymore. Nothing that crazy happened, but okay. Anyway, let's not dawdle. So in our last chapter of this book, there were some pretty big things that happened. There was a big conversation between Darcy and Elizabeth about, Darcy's interest in her, and she got very offended, but then afterward, I think she was able to come back to herself a little bit. So we will see what happens. So let's just jump right in, shall we? Chapter 16. Okay. It was the second week in May, in which the three young ladies set out together from Grace Church Street for the town of. There's a big blank in the book. I don't know what it is. For the town of in Hertfordshire. And as they drew near the appointed inn where Mr. Bennet's carriage was to meet them, they quickly perceived, in token of the coachman's punctuality, both Kitty and Lydia looking out of a dining room upstairs. I wonder why the town is blurred out like that. Very interesting. These two girls had been above an hour in the place, happily employed in visiting an opposite milliner, watching the sentinel on guard, and dressing a salad and cucumber. After welcoming their sisters, I feel like I'm a little blurry. Anyway, after welcoming their sisters, they triumphantly displayed a table set out with such cold meat as an inn larder usually affords, exclaiming, "Is not this nice?" Is not this an agreeable surprise? And we meant to treat you all, added Lydia, but you must lend us the money, for we have spent all ours at the shop out there. Then showing their purchase. Sorry. Then showing her purchase. Look here, I have bought this bonnet. I do not think it very pretty, but I thought I might as well buy it as not. I shall put it to pieces as soon as I get home and see if I can make it up any better. And when her sisters abused it as ugly, she added with perfect unconcern, "Oh, but there were 2 or 3 much uglier in the shop, and when I have bought some prettier colored satin to trim it with fresh, I think it will be very tolerable. Besides, I will not much signify what one wears this summer after the blank Shire have left Meryton, and they are going in a fortnight." "Are they indeed?" cried Elizabeth with the greatest satisfaction. "They are going to be encamped near Brighton, and I do so want Papa to take us all there for the summer. It would be such a delirious scheme, and I dare say would hardly cost anything at all. Mamma would like to go too, of all things. Only think what a miserable summer else we shall have." Yes, thought Elizabeth, that would be a delightful scheme indeed, and completely due for us at once. Good heaven! Brighton, and a whole campful of soldiers to us who have been overset already by the one poor regiment of militia and the monthly balls of Meryton. "Now I have some news for you," said Lydia, as they sat down at the table. "What do you think? It is excellent news, capital news, and about a certain person we all like." Jane and Elizabeth looked at each other, and the waiter was told that he need not stay. Lydia laughed and said, "Aye, that is just like your formality and discretion. You thought the waiter must not hear, as if he cared. I dare say he often hears worse things said than what I am going to say, but he is an ugly fellow. I am glad he is gone." Who is speaking again? Lydia. My God. "I never saw such a long chin in my life. Well, but now is for my news. It is about dear Wickham. Too good for the waiter, is it not? There is no danger of Wickham's marrying Mary King. There's for you. She has gone down to hear uncle at Liverpool, gone to stay. Wickham is safe." "And Mary King is safe," cried Elizabeth. "Safe from a connection impudent as to fortune. She is a great fool for going away, if she liked him." "But I hope there is no strong attachment on either side," said Jane. "I am sure there is not on his. I will answer for it. He never cared 3 straws about her. Who could, about such a nasty little freckled thing?" Elizabeth was shocked to think that, however incapable of such coarseness in expression herself, the coarseness of the sentiment was little older than her own breast had formerly harbored and fancied liberal. As soon as all had ate and the elder ones paid, the carriage was ordered, and after some contrivance, the whole party, with their boxes, work-bags, and parcels, and the unwelcome addition of Kitty and Lydia's purchases, were seated in it. "How nicely we are crammed in," cried Lydia. "I am glad I brought my bonnet, if it is only for the fun of having another bandbox. Well, now let us be quite comfortable and snug, and talk and laugh all the way home. And in the first place, let us hear what has happened to you since all went away. Have you seen any pleasant men? Have you any flirting? I was in great hopes that one of you would have got a husband before you came back. Jane will be quite an old maid soon, I declare. She is almost 23. My God, what does that mean? 23? Yeah, okay. Lord, how ashamed I should be of not being married before 3 and 20. My God. My Aunt Phillips wants you to get husbands. You can't think. She says Lizzie had better have taken Mr. Collins, but I do not think there would have been any fun in it. Lord, how I should like to be married before any of you, and then I would chaperone you about all the balls. Dear me, we had such a good piece of fun the other day at Colonel Foster's. Kitty and me were to spend the day there, and Mrs. Forrester, um, promised to have a little dance in the evening. By the by, Mrs. Forrester and me are such friends. And so she asked the two Harringtons to come, but Harriet was ill, and so Pen was forced to come by herself. And then, what do you think we did? We dressed up Chamberlain in women's clothes on purpose to pass for a lady. Only think, only think, what fun! Not a soul knew of it, but call. And Mrs. Forrester and Kitty and me, except my aunt, for we were forced to borrow one of her gowns, and you cannot imagine how well he looked. Well, when Denny and Wickham and Pratt and 2 or 3 more of the men came in, they did not know him in the least. Lord, how I laughed! And so did Mrs. Forrester. I thought I should have died. And that made the men suspect something, and then they soon found out what was the matter. With such kind of histories of their parties and good jokes did Lydia, assisted by Kitty's hints and additions, endeavor to amuse her companions all the way to Longbourn. Elizabeth listened as little as she could, but there was no escaping the frequent mention of Wickham's name. Their reception at home was most kind. Mrs. Bennet rejoiced to see Jane's undiminished beauty, and more than once during dinner did Mr. Bennet say voluntarily to Elizabeth, "I'm glad you're coming back, Lizzie." Their party in the dining room was large, for almost all the Lucases came to meet Maria and hear the news, and various were the subjects were occupied them. Lady Lucas was enquiring of Maria across the table after the welfare and poultry of her eldest daughter. Mrs. Bennet was doubly engaged, on one hand collecting an account of the present fashions from Jane, who sat some way below her, and on the other retailing them all the younger Miss Lucases, and Lydia, in a voice rather louder than any other person's, was enumerating the various pleasures of the morning to anyone who would hear her. "Oh, Mary," said she, "I wish you had gone with us, for we had such fun. As we went along, Kitty and me drew up all the blinds and pretended there was nobody in the coach, and I should have gone so all the way if Kitty had not been sick. And when we got to the George, I do think we behaved very handsomely, for we treated the other 3 and the nicest cold luncheon in the world. And if you would have gone, we would have treated you too. And then when we came away, it was such fun. I thought we should never have got into the coach. I was ready to die of laughter. And then we were all so merry all the way home, and talked and laughed so loud that anybody might have heard us 10 miles off." To this, Mary very gravely replied, "Far be it from me, my dear sister, to depreciate such pleasures. They would doubtless be congenial of the generality of female minds. But I confess they would have no charms for me. I should seldom indefinitely prefer a book." But all of this answer Lydia heard not a word. She seldom listened for anybody for more than half a minute, and never attended to Mary at all. In the afternoon, Lydia was urgent with the rest of the girls. I feel like it is blurry, and I feel like I'm like wondering if I can get it to focus on my face a little bit better. Anyway, um, um, in the afternoon, Lydia was urgent with the rest of the girls to walk to Meryton and see how everybody went on. But Elizabeth steadily opposed the scheme. It should not be said that the Miss Bennets could not be at home half a day before they were in pursuit of the officers. There were another reason, too, for her opposition. She dreaded seeing Wickham again, and was resolved to avoid it as long as possible. The comfort to her of the regiment's approaching approval was indeed beyond expression. In a fortnight they were to go, and once gone, she hoped there could be nothing more to plague her of the account. She had not gone many hours at home before she found that the Brighton scheme, of which Lydia had given them a hint at the inn, was under frequent discussion between her parents. Elizabeth saw directly that her father had not the smallest intention of yielding, but his answers were at the same time so vague and equivocal that her mother, though often disheartened, had never yet despaired of succeeding at last. Okay, that was chapter 16. Let's jump right in. 1, 2, 3.5 pages. Into chapter 17. Okay. Elizabeth's impatience to acquaint Jane with what had happened could no longer be overcome, and at length resolving to suppress every particular in which her sister was concerned, and preparing her to be surprised, she related to her the next morning the chief of the scheme between Mr. Darcy and herself. Miss Bennet's astonishment was soon lessened by the strong sisterly partiality which made any admiration of Elizabeth appear perfectly natural, and all surprise was shortly lost in other feelings. She was sorry that Mr. Darcy should have delivered his sentiments in a manner so little suited to recommend them, but still more she was grieved for the unhappiness which her sister's refusal must have given him. Hold on. His being so sure of succeeding was wrong, said she, and certainly ought not to have happened, but consider how much it must increase his disappointment. Indeed, replied Elizabeth, I am heartily sorry for him, but he has other feelings which will probably soon drive away his regard for me. You do not blame me, however, for refusing him. Blame you? Oh, no. But you blame me for having spoken so warmly of Wickham. No, I do not know what you were wrong in saying what you did. But you will know it when I have told you what happened the very next day. She then spoke of the letter, repeating the whole of its contents as far as they were concerned, as they concerned George Wickham. What a stroke was this for poor Jane, who would willingly have gone through the world without believing so much wickedness existed in the whole race of mankind, and was here collected in one individual. Nor was Darcy's vindication, though grateful to her feelings, capable of consoling her for such discovery. Most earnestly did she labor to prove the probability of error, and seek to clear one without involving the other. This will not do, said Elizabeth. You never will be able to make both of them good for anything. Take your choice, but you must be satisfied with only one. There is but such a quantity of merit between them, just enough to make one good sort of man, and of late it has been shifting about pretty much. For my part, I am inclined to believe it all Mr. Darcy's, but you shall do as you choose. It was some time, however, before a smile could be extorted from Jane. I do not know when I have been more shocked, said she. Wickham is so very bad, it is almost past belief. And poor Mr. Darcy, dear Lizzie, only consider what he must have suffered. Such a disappointment. And with the knowledge of your ill opinion, too, and having to relate such a thing of his sister, it is really too distressing. I am sure you must feel it so. Oh, no, my regret and compassion are all done away by seeing you so full of both. I know you will do him such ample justice that I am growing every moment more unconcerned and indifferent. Your profusion makes me saving, and if you lament over him much longer, my heart will be light as a feather. Poor Wickham. There is such an expression of goodness in his countenance, such an openness and gentleness in his manner. There certainly was some great mismanagement in the education of those two young men. One has got all the goodness, and the other all the appearance of it. I've never thought Mr. Darcy so deficient in the appearance of it as you used to do. And yet, I meant to be so uncommonly clever in taking so decided to dislike to him without any reason. It is such a spur to one's genius, such an opening for wit to have a dislike of that kind. One may be continually abusive without saying anything just, but one cannot be always laughing at a man without now and then stumbling on something witty. Lizzie, you have first read that letter. I am sure you could not treat the matter as you do now. Indeed, I could not. I was uncomfortable enough. I was very uncomfortable, I may say unhappy, and with no one to speak to of what I felt. So Jane, to comfort me and say that I had not been so very weak and vain and nonsensical as I knew I had, oh, how I wanted you. How unfortunate that you have used such very strong expression in speaking of Wickham to Mr. Darcy, for now they do appear wholly undeserved. Certainly, but the misfortune of speaking with bitterness is a most natural consequence of the prejudices that I had been encouraging. There is one point on which I want your advice. I want to be told whether I ought or ought not to make our acquaintance a general understanding Wickham's character. Miss Bennet paused a little and then replied, Surely there is no occasion for exposing him so dreadfully. What is your own opinion? That ought not to be attempted. Mr. Darcy has not authorized me to make his communication public. On the contrary, every particular relative to his sister was meant to be kept as much as possible to myself, and if I endeavor to undeceive people as to the rest of his conduct, who will believe me? The general prejudice against Mr. Darcy is so violent that it would be the death of half the good people of Meryton to accept to place him in an amiable light. I am not equal to it. Wickham will soon be gone, and therefore it will not signify to anybody here what he really is. Sometimes hence it will be all found out, and then we may laugh at their stupidity in not knowing it before. At present, I will say nothing about it. You are quite right. To have his errors made public might ruin him forever. He is now perhaps sorry for what he has done and anxious to reestablish a character. We must not make him desperate. The tumult of Elizabeth's mind was allayed by this conversation. She had got rid of two of the secrets she had weighed on her for a fortnight, and was certain of a willing listener in Jane, whenever she might wish to talk again of either. But there was still something lurking behind, of which prudence forbade the disclosure. She dared not relate to the other half of Mr. Darcy's letter, not explaining to her sister how sincerely she had valued by his friend. He was knowledge in which no one could partake, and she was sensible that nothing less than a perfect understanding between the parties could justify her in throwing off the last encumbrance of mystery. And then, said she, if that very improbable event should ever take place, I shall merely be able to tell what Bingley may tell in a much more agreeable manner himself. The liberty of communication cannot be mine till it has lost all its value. She was now, on being settled at home, at leisure to observe the real state of her sister's spirits. Jane was not happy. She still cherished a very tender affection for Bingley, having never ever even fancied herself in love before. Her regard had all the warmth of first attachment, and from her age and disposition, greater steadiness than first attachments often boast. And so fervently did she value his remembrance and prefer him to every other man, that all her good sense and all her attention to the feelings of her friends were requisite to check the indulgence of those regrets which must have been injurious to her own health and their tranquillity. "Well, Lizzie," said Mrs. Bennet one day, "what is your opinion now of this sad business of Jane's? For my part, I was determined never to speak of it again to anybody. I told my sister, Phillips, so the other day, but I cannot find out that Jane saw anything of him in London. Well, he is a very undeserving young man. I do not suppose there is the least chance in the world of her ever getting him now. There is no talk of his coming to Netherfield again in the summer, and I have inquired of everybody, too, who is likely to know. Oh, I do believe that he will ever live in Netherfield any more. Oh, well, it is just as he chooses. Nobody wants him to come. Though I shall always say that he used my daughter extremely ill, and if I was her, I would have not put up with it. Well, my comfort is, I am sure Jane will die of a broken heart, and then he will be sorry for what he has done." But as Elizabeth could not receive any comfort from such expectation, she made no answer. "Well, Lizzie," continued her mother soon afterwards, "and so the Collinses live very comfortable, do they? Well, well, I only hope it'll last. And what sort of table do they keep? Charlotte is an excellent manager, I dare say." "If she is half as sharp as her mother, she is saving enough. There's nothing extravagant in their housekeeping, I dare say. No, nothing at all. A great deal of good management, depend upon it. Yes, yes, they will care not to outrun their income. They will never be distressed for money. Well, much good may it do them. And so, I suppose, they often talk of leaving Longbourn when your father is dead. They look upon it quite as their own, I dare say, whenever that happens. It was a subject which they could not mention before me. No, it would have been strange if they had. But I make no doubt they often talk of it between themselves. Well, if they can be easy with an estate that is not lawfully their own, so much the better. I should be ashamed of having one that was only entailed on me." All right, that was chapter 17. We got some hot goss, as we usually do. Okay. Next chapter is 5 pages. I'm going to take a 2-minute break, and I will be back very soon. Hello. Look who's back. Back again. Yeah, sometimes I've just been noticing, sometimes I get really tired of talking in these streams, so I feel like every 30 minutes is a good little break time for me. Um, yes, so yeah, but I'm gonna continue now. Um, so we are on chapter 18 of Pride and Prejudice. And let's see what continues. The first week of their return was soon gone. Just to interject for a second, the idea of time is just so interesting to me in this story because back then, like, I just feel like time moves so much slower. But I feel like every time they visit somewhere, they're like, oh yeah, we were there for a fortnight, which is like 2 weeks, I think. So, that's 2 weeks of like Pride and Prejudice is like ISIS. Wait, I don't get it. Oh, wait. It's like ISIS motto. Oh, fuck. I hate that. I hate that a lot. Hi, Colin. Thanks for being here. Um, but yeah, I'm like, what were y'all doing? Like, I know that they say they play cards, but do you just like sit and look out the window? Like, what do you do for 2 weeks? But I guess they gossip a lot and hang out. I don't know. Um, anyway, it's just wild thinking about that concept. Um, anyway, shall we continue? The second began. It was the last of the regiment's stay in Meryton, and all the young ladies in the neighborhood were dropping apace. The dejection was almost universal. The elder Miss Bennets alone were able to eat, drink, and sleep, and pursue the usual course of their employments. Such frequently were they reproached for their insensibility by Kitty and Lydia, whose own misery was extreme, and who could not comprehend such heartlessness, such hard-heartedness in any of the family. Good heavens, what is to become of us? What are we to do? They would often exclaim in the bitterness of woe, "How can you be smiling so, Lizzie?" Their affectionate mother shared all their grief. She remembered what she had herself endured on a similar occasion 25 years ago. "I am sure," she said, "I cried 2 days together when Colonel Miller's regiment went away. I thought I should have broke my heart." "I am sure I shall break mine," said Lydia. "If one could go to Brighton," observed Mrs. Bennet. "Oh, yes, if one of us but go to Brighton, but papa is so disagreeable. A little sea bathing would set me up forever." Sea bathing. I'm gonna start saying that. And my Aunt Phillips is sure it would do me a great deal of good, said Kitty. Such were the kind of lamentations resounding perpetually through Longbourn House. Elizabeth tried to be diverted by them, but all sense of pleasure was lost in shame. She felt anew the justice of Mr. Darcy's objections, and never had she before been so disposed to pardon his interface and the views of his friend. But the gloom of Lydia's prospect was shortly cleared away, for she received an invitation from Mrs. Foster, the wife of the colonel of the regiment, to accompany her to Brighton. This invaluable friend was a very young woman and very lately married. A resemblance in good humor and good spirits had recommended her and Lydia to each other, and out of their 3 months' acquaintance. Yo, what is up, Alan? Thank you for the subscribe. Damn, dude. Subscribe for 5 months? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Shout out to Alan. Go follow Alan. Alan, I haven't figured out how to do the little shout out thing on Twitch yet. And you're always so nice because every time I come into your stream, you're like, shout out, Juana. Anyway, but I appreciate you, Alan. I hope you're doing well. Man, you are on Twitch constantly. You are here in chat. You are doing the thing. I know I've tried to do the exclamation point SO before. Hold on. Let me try it again. Hold on. Alternatively, wait. Do I go exclamation point SO Alan? It didn't work. How do I do it? Oh, but do I not put a space slash shout out? Oh, I'm doing it. Hold on. Wait. Damn it. No, 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 no. Oh my God. I'm too old for this. Oh my God. Go away. Yo, Neff, what is up? I'm trying to do shout outs. I'm failing. Hold on. I did it. Okay. All right. I see you gotta go. So, bye, Alan. I appreciate you. Thanks for being here and teaching me a thing. I appreciate it. I clicked on your name and now your face is on my screen and I can't get it to go away. That's what I was trying to fix right now. But you know what? It's all good. Who cares? Who cares? Um, all right. Anyway, what's up, Neff? Thanks for being here. I appreciate you, as usual. Ah, Colin wants me to hydrate. I'll hydrate. First, a cup of tea. The lemon is not very potent in this lemon tea. If I'm drinking lemon tea, I want it to taste super lemony, you know? But I guess I could have added more lemon to it. Okay, but now for some real water. Ah, oh my God, it almost opened and spilled everywhere. How disastrous. You want some gulping sounds, Colin? Listen. Listen. The only place on the internet where you get free gulps. The more you subscribe, the louder the gulps. You know? Anyway, we love keeping it here, keeping it weird over here at Juana Iguana Studios. Shall we continue? Gulp. Gulps. Keep those chats going, Colin. All right. Do. But the gloom of Lydia's prospect was shortly cleared away, for she received an invitation from Mrs. Forrester, the wife of the colonel of the regiment, to accompany her to Brighton. This invaluable friend was a very young woman and very lately married. A resemblance in good humor and good spirits had recommended her to Lydia to each other, and out of their 3 months' acquaintance, they had been intimate too. Intimate? Whoa. The rapture of Lydia on this occasion, her adoration for Mrs. Forrester, the delight of Mrs. Bennet, and the mortification of Kitty are scarcely to be described. Wholly inattentive to her sister's feelings, Lydia flew about the house in restless ecstasy, calling for everyone's congratulations, and laughing and talking with more violence than ever, whilst the luckless Kitty continued in the parlour, repining at her fate in terms as unreasonable as her accent was peevish. I cannot see why Mrs. Forrester should not ask me as well as Lydia, said she, though I am not her particular friend. I have just as much right to be asked as she has, and more too, for I am 2 years older. In vain did Elizabeth attempt to make her reasonable, and Jane to make her resigned. As for Elizabeth herself, this invitation was so far from exciting, and her same feelings as in her mother and Lydia, and she considered it to be the death warrant of all possibility of common sense for the latter, and detestable as much a step must make her were it known. She could not help secretly advising her father not to let her go. She represented to him all the improprieties of Lydia's general behavior, and little advantage she could derive from the friendship of such a woman as Mrs. Forrester, and the probability of her being yet more imprudent with such a companion as Brighton, where her temptations must be greater than at home. He heard her attentively, and then said, Lydia will never be easy till she has exposed herself in some public place or other, and we can never expect her to do it with so little expense or inconvenience to her family as under the present circumstances. If you were aware, said Elizabeth, of the very great disadvantage to us all, which must arise from the public notice of Lydia's unguarded and imprudent manner, nay, which has already arisen from it, I am sure you would judge differently in the affair. Already arisen, repeated Miss Bennet. What, she has frightened away some of your lovers? Poor little Lizzie. My gosh. Oh, Mr. Bennet. Okay. But do not be cast down. Such squeamish youths as cannot bear to be connected with a little absurdity are not worth a regret. Come, let me see the list of the pitiful fellows who have kept aloof in Lydia's folly. Rafiki, what is up? It's been a minute, Rafiki. How are you? How is life? Are you writing? Are you writing things? How are you? Indeed, you are mistaken. I have no such inquiries. You've been mostly working. Fair, fair, fair. Heard. Me too. I haven't done many reading streams recently. Doing like 3 overtimes this weekend? No. That sucks, dude. It sucks big time. Not like 3, precisely 3. Goddamn. Well, I hope that they go well. And if you're doing overtime, hopefully you're getting paid more? Question mark? Dude, thank you. It is a sweater. It has not 1 square, not 2 squares, but 3 squares. 3 oddly placed squares. How cool is that? I got it from a friend. So, yeah. You do get 1.5 time. Hell yeah. Thank God. Thank God. Okay. Well, feel free, in the meantime, Rafiki, to send your high, low kudos in the chat. And if you don't know what that is, give me the high of your day, one good thing that happens, the low of your day, something that bothered you or a low, And then kudos, obviously, give kudos to one person from your day. Tell me about a person you want to appreciate, congratulate, thank, all such things. Okay, I'm gonna keep reading though. Thank you for being here, Rafiki. I appreciate you. Indeed, you are mistaken. I have no such inquiries to resent. It is not of particular, but of general evils, which I am now complaining. Our importance, our respectability in the world must be affected by the wild validity, the assurance and disdain of all restraint which mark Lydia's character. Excuse me, for I must speak plainly. If you, my dear father, will not take the trouble of checking her exuberant spirits and of teaching her that her present pursuits are not to be the business of her life, she will soon be beyond the reach of amendment. Her character will be fixed, and she will, at 16, be the most determined flirt that ever made herself and her family ridiculous. A flirt, too, in the worst and meanest degree of flirtation, without any attraction beyond youth and a tolerable person, and from the ignorance and emptiness of her head, wholly unable to ward off any portion of that universal contempt which her rage for admiration will excite. In this danger, Kitty is also comprehended. She will follow wherever Lydia leads, vain, ignorant, idle, and absolutely uncontrolled. Oh, my dear father, can you suppose it possible that they will not be censured and despised wherever they are known, and that their sisters will not be often involved in the disgrace? Mr. Bennet saw that her whole heart was in the subject, and affectionately taking her hand, said in reply, "Do not make yourself uneasy, my love. Wherever you and Jane are known, you must be respected and valued, and you will not appear to less advantage for having a couple of, or may I say, 3 very silly sisters. We shall have no peace at Longbourn if Lydia does not go to Brighton. Let her go then. Colonel Forrester is a sensible man, and will keep her out of any real mischief, and she is luckily too poor to be an object of prey to anybody. At Brighton she will be of less importance ever as a common flirt that she has been here. The officers will find women better worth their notice. Let us hope, therefore, that her being there may teach her her own insignificance. At any rate, she cannot grow many more degrees worse without authorizing us to lock her up for the rest of her life." Oh my gosh, Mr. Bennet, so dramatic. Hi, Vape Nation getting trained on a new post at work. That's also going on a few weeks, but it's a great thing. Hell yeah, I don't know what Vape Nation is, but cool. I'm glad that it's a great thing. Hell yeah, let's go. Low. Had to clean out stuff at work that got my allergies flared up more than usual. Damn. Oh, it's an emote. Why didn't I don't know. The emote's not popping up for me. That's funny. Um anyway, low. Had to go. Oh yeah, I'm sorry about your allergies. That sucks. I hate that. Hope that you were equipped with allergy meds, or at least that you are feeling better now. And then kudos to my coworker explaining something new to me with explaining something good to me. And then the emote says, feels good, man. Which I don't know what that means, but I'll take it. Hell yeah, love getting explained, love getting learned. Let's go. Getting explained. I love that for you. Spitting. Feels good, man. It's a third party one. Okay, got it. Oh, dude. Don't spend money on chapstick. Just get a tub of Vaseline, okay? It's so helpful. Anyway. Where were we? Yes, okay. I've been meaning to DIY chapstick. It's the form factor of chapstick that is top tier for me. That is fair. The little tubes are definitely amazing. Very helpful. I got a chapstick one time that was homemade or whatever, and it seems to be literally just coconut oil. Like, so can't be too hard to make. So yeah, I hope that goes well. Okay. With this answer, Elizabeth was forced to be content. But her own opinion continued the same, and she left him disappointed and sorry. It was not in her nature, however, to increase her vexations by dwelling on them. She was confident of having performed her duty, and to fret over unavoidable evils or augment them by anxiety was no part of her disposition. Just going to do the ingredients list of Burt's Bees. Smart. Smart. Very smart. I love Burt's Bees. Had Lydia and her mother known the substance of her conference with her father, their indignation would hardly have been found expression of their untitled volubility. In Lydia's imagination, a visit to Brighton comprised of every possibility of earthly happiness. She saw with the creative eye of fancy the streets of that gay bathing place covered with officers. She saw gay. She saw herself the object of attention to tens and to scores of them at present unknown. She saw all the glories of the camp, in tents stretched forth in beauteous uniformity of lines, crowded with the young and the gay, and dazzling with scarlet, and to complete the view, she saw herself seated beneath a tent, tenderly flirting with at least 6 officers at once. Okay, Lydia. She had known that her sister sought to tear her from such prospects and such realities as these. What would have been her sensations? They could have been understood only by her mother, who might have felt nearly the same. Lydia's going to Brighton was all that consoled her from the melancholy conviction of her husband's never intending to go there himself. Gay baiting. Totally gay baiting. Jane Austen, what are you doing? Um, Wait, what? Why is that word being monitored? It's freaking weird, dude. Maybe it's OG because because yeah, that's weird. Cause yeah, the first time you said it, it didn't pop up, so might have been the capitalized gay. No, but that one was fine. Try OG, see if that works. Um, weird. Ah, weird. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you said gay too much. Baiters? Gay baiters. It's gay baiter? That's so weird. That is weird as hell. I don't know. Gay baiting gear. My apologies, Automod. You know, Automod, we still love you because you're here for our protection. So, mad appreciate to you. Um, okay. Okay. Elizabeth was now to see, oh no. But they were entirely ignorant of what had passed, and their raptures continued with little intermission to the very day of Lydia's leaving home. Elizabeth was now to see Mr. Wickham for the last time. Having been frequently in company with him since her return, agitation was pretty well over. The agitation of former partiality entirely so. She had even learnt to detect, in the very gentleness from which had first delighted her, an affection and a sameness to disgust and weary. In his present behaviour to herself, moreover, she had a fresh source of displeasure, for the inclination he soon testified of renewing those attentions which had marked to the early part of their acquaintance could only serve, after what had since passed, to provoke her. She had lost all concern for him in finding herself thus selected as the object of such idle and frivolous gallantry, and while she steadily repressed it, could not but feel the reproof contained in his believing that, however long, for whatever cause, his attentions had been withdrawn, her vanity would be gratified by her preference secured at any time by their renewal. On the very last day of the regiment's remaining in Meryton, he died sorry, he dined with others of the officers at Longbourn, and so little was Elizabeth disposed to part of him in good humour, that on his making some enquiry to the manner in which her time had passed at Hunsford, she mentioned Colonel Fitzwilliam and Mr. Darcy's having both spent 3 weeks at Rosings, and asked him if he were acquainted with the former. He looked surprised, displeased, alarmed, but with a moment's recollection and a returning smile, replied that he had formerly seen him often, and after observing that he was a very gentlemanlike man, asked her how she had liked him. Her answer was warmly in his favour. With an air of indifference, he soon afterwards added, "How long did you say that he was at Rosings?" "Nearly 3 weeks." "And you saw him frequently?" "Yes, almost every day." "His manners are very different from his cousin's." "Yes, very indeed, but I think Mr. Darcy improves on acquaintance." "Indeed!" cried Wickham, with a look that did not escape her. "And pray, may I ask—" But checking himself, he added in a gayer tone, "It is in address that he improves? Has he, has he dined? Has he dined? To add aught of civility to his ordinary style? For I dare not hope," he continued in a lower and more serious tone, "that he is improved in essentials." "Oh, no!" cried Elizabeth. "In essentials, I believe he is very much what he ever was." While she spoke, Wickham looked as if scarcely knowing whether to rejoice over her words or to distrust their meaning. There was something in her countenance which made him listen with an apprehensive and anxious attention, which she added, "When I said that he improved on acquaintance, I did not mean that either his mind or manners were in a state of improvement, but that from knowing him better, his disposition was better understood." Wickham's alarm now appeared in a heightened complexion and agitated look. For a few minutes he was silent, till, shaking off his embarrassment, he turned to her again and said in the gentlest of accents, "You, who so well know my feelings toward Mr. Darcy, who readily comprehend how sincerely I must rejoice that he is wise enough to assume even the appearance of what is right. His pride, in that direction, may be of service, if not to himself, to many others, for it must deter him from such foul misconduct as I have suffered by. I only fear that the sort of cautiousness to which you, I imagine, have been alluding is merely adopted on his visits to his aunt, of whose good opinion and judgment he stands much in awe. His fear of her he has always operated, I know, when they were together, and is a good deal to be imputed on the wish of forwarding the match with Miss de Bow, which I am certain he has very much at heart." Elizabeth could not repress a smile at this, but she answered only by a slight inclination of the head. She saw that he wanted to engage her on the old subject of his grievances, and she was in no humor to indulge him. The rest of the evening passed with the appearance, on his side, of usual cheerfulness, but with no farther attempt in distinguish Elizabeth, and they parted at last with mutual civility, and possibly a mutual desire of never meeting again. When the party broke up, Lydia returned with Mrs. Forrester to Meryton, from whence they were to set out early the next morning. The separation between her and her family was rather noisy than pathetic. Kitty was the only one who shed tears, but she did weep from vexation and envy. Mrs. Bennet was diffuse of her good wishes from the felicity of her daughter, and impressive in her injunctions that she would not miss the opportunity of enjoying herself as much as possible, advice which there was any reason to believe would be attended to, and in the clamorous happiness of Lydia herself in bidding farewell, the most gentle adieus of her sisters were uttered without being heard. Okay, that was chapter 18. So perhaps there might be some traveling in the next chapter, chapter 20, which is the last chapter we're going to read today. And there are only 4 pages. But before we do that, I thought I would give you a little treat. So the treat is going to be a little music. Okay, hold on. Okay. I wanted to change my mic over. Obviously this one's not as good quality as this one, um but you can't I've found that when I play instruments trying to use my nice microphone, you can't really hear it because it has this like, I don't know, muffler situation. I don't really get it. But okay, so I've been playing this little thing almost every day, which has been really fun. This one's in G. Yeah. All right. All right. Sorry, I was just making sure it worked. Um, all right. Let's play a little Auld Lang Syne. So obviously I'm very much a beginner at this thing, but been having fun learning things by ear just to train my hearing, and it's just been so fun. Um, Wait. Auld Lang Syne. I've also been learning. It's too loud. Ah. Thank you, Colin. I wonder if I play a song with low notes. Or if I just play more gentle. Okay, wait. Here's my other experiment. Hold on. Okay, Hold on. So I've switched over to this mic. No. Yeah, you're right. I can't hear the high notes. Damn. Yeah, you're right. I can't hear the high notes. Damn, I was so excited to play harmonica. But it's okay. Damn, I was so excited to play harmonica. But it's okay. Let me see. Well, maybe Oh Susanna will be low enough that you can hear some of it. All right. All right. I don't know how much of that you just heard, but I tried. And maybe next time I'll figure out the mic situation so that you can actually hear me. But yeah, all right. That was your little musical interlude, little fun ditty to break up the chapters because we are about to head into our last chapter of the night. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, shall we? Last chapter. What I appreciate about this book is that the chapters are short and sweet, you know? Just like Sabrina Carpenter. I mean, who's to say? Who's to say that Sabrina Carpenter's album was not named after she had read Pride and Prejudice, you know? Okay. Chapter 19 of Pride and Prejudice by Miss Jane Austen. Here we go. And it's only like 3.5 pages, so. Had Elizabeth's opinion been all drawn from her own family, she could not have formed a very pleasing picture of conjunctural felicity or domestic comfort. Her father, captivated by youth and beauty, and that appearance of good humor which youth and beauty generally give, had married a woman whose weak understanding and illiberal mind had very early in their marriage put an end to all real affection for her. Respect, esteem, and confidence had vanished forever, and all his views of domestic happiness were overthrown. See, this is the type of thing. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't really, adored reading this book. It's not my favorite thing I've ever read. But little lines like that I've really enjoyed because it reminds you that above, a romance fiction, this book is really social commentary. And like a reflection on how this society functions, which is honestly still prevalent. So I do really appreciate those little comments of like reflection and moments that the author points out the the like humor and how in the absurdity of some facets of society and conventional marriage and attraction and relationships, and class and such. Um, anyway, but Mr. Bennet was not of a disposition to seek comfort for their disappointment, which his own imprudence had brought on, and of any pleasures which too often console the unfortunate of their folly or their vice. He was fond of the country and of books, and these tastes had arisen his principal enjoyments. To his wife he was very little otherwise indebted than as her ignorance and folly had contributed to his amusement. This was not the sort of happiness which a man would in general wish to owe to his wife, but where other powers of entertainment were wanting, the true philosopher will derive benefit from such as are given. Elizabeth, however, had never been blind to the impropriety of her father's behavior as a husband. She had always seen it with pain, but respecting his abilities and grateful for his affectionate treatment of herself, she endeavored to forget what she could not overlook, and to banish from her thoughts that continual breach of conjugal obligation and decorum which, in exposing his wife to the contempt of her own children, was so highly reprehensible. But she had never felt so strongly as now the disadvantage which must attend the children of so unsuitable a marriage, nor never been so fully aware of the evils arising from so ill-judged a direction of talents which rightly used might have been preserved the respectability of his daughters, even if incapable of enlarging the mind of his wife. When Elizabeth had rejoiced over Wickham's departure, she found little other cause for satisfaction in the loss of regiment. Their parties abroad were less varied than before, and at home she had a mother and sister whose constant repinings of the dullness of everything around them threw a real gloom over their domestic circle, and though Kitty might in time regain her natural degree of sense, since the disturbers of her brain were removed, her other sister, from whom disposition greater evil might be apprehended, was likely to be hardened in all her folly and assurance by a situation of such double danger as a watering place and a camp. Upon the whole, therefore, she found, what has been sometimes found before, that an event to which she had looked forward with impatient desire did not, in taking place, bring all the satisfaction she had promised herself. It was consequently necessary to name some other period for the commencement of actual felicity, to have some other point on which her wishes and hopes might be fixed, and by again enjoying the pleasure of anticipation, console herself for the present and prepare for another disappointment. Her tour to the lakes was now the object of her happiest thoughts. It was her best consolation for all the uncomfortable hours which had discontentedness of her mother and Kitty made inevitable. And could she have included Jane in the scheme, every part of it would have been perfect. But it is fortunate, thought she, that I have something to wish for. Were the whole arrangement complete, my disappointment would be certain. But here, by carrying with me one ceaseless source of regret in my sister's absence, I may reasonably hope to have all my expectations of pleasure realized. A scheme of which every part compromises delight can never be successful, and general disappointment is only warded off by the defense of some little peculiar vexation. When Lydia went away, she promised to write very often and very minutely to her mother and Kitty, but her letters were always long expected and always very short. Those to her mother contained little else than they were just returned from the library, where such names and offers had attended them, and where she had seen such beautiful ornaments, she made quite wild. And she had a new gown or a new parasol, which she would have described more fully, but was obligated to leave off in a violent hurry, as Miss Forrester would called her, and they were going to the camp, and from her correspondence with her sister, there was still less to be learnt. For her letters to Kitty, though rather longer, were too full of lines under the words to be made public. After the first fortnight of 3 weeks of her absence, health, good humor, and cheerfulness began to reappear at Longbourn. Everything wore a happier aspect. The families who had been in town in the winter came back again, and summer finery and summer engagements arose. Mrs. Bennet was restored to her usual querulous serenity, and by the middle of June, Kitty was so much rediscovered as to be able to enter Meryton without tears, an event of such happy promise to make Elizabeth hope, and that by the following Christmas she might be so tolerably reasonable as not to mention an officer above one day, unless by some cruel and malicious arrangement at the War Office another regiment should be quartered at Meryton. A time fixed for the beginning of their northern tour was now fast approaching, and a fortnight only was wanting of it when a letter arrived from Mrs. Gardiner, which at once delayed its commencement and curtailed its extent. Mrs. Gardiner would be prevented by business from setting out ill a fortnight later in July, and must be in London again within a month. And as that left too short a period for them to go so far and see so much as they had proposed, or at least to see it with the leisure and comfort they had built on, they were obliged to give up the lakes and substitute a more contracted tour, and according to the present plan, were to go no farther northward than Derbyshire. In that country, there was enough to be seen to occupy the chief of their 3 weeks, and to Mrs. Gardiner it had a particularly strong attraction. The town she had formerly passed some years of her life, and where they were now to spend a few days, was probably as great an object of her curiosity as all the celebrated beauties. Where was I? Beauties of Matlock, Chatsworth, Doverdale, or the Peak. Elizabeth was excessively disappointed. She had set her heart on seeing the lakes, and still thought there might have been time enough. But it was her business to be satisfied, and certainly her temper to be happy, and all was soon right again. With the mention of Derbyshire, there were many ideas connected. It was impossible for her to see the word without thinking of Pemberley and its owner. But surely, said she, I may enter his country with impunity and rob it of a few petrified spars without his perceiving me. The period of expectation was now doubled. 4 weeks were to pass away before her uncle and aunt's arrival, but they did not pass away. And Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner, with their 4 children, did at length appear at Longbourn. The children, 2 girls of 6 and 8 years old, and 2 younger boys, were to be left under the particular care of their cousin Jane, who was the general favorite, and whose steady sense of sweetness of temper expectedly adapted her for attending to them in every way, teaching them, playing with them, and loving them. The Gardiners stayed only one night at Longbourn, and set off the next morning with Elizabeth in pursuit of novelty and amusement. One enjoyment was certain, that of suitableness and compassions. A suitableness that comprehended health and temper to bear inconveniences, cheerfulness to enhance every pleasure, and affection and intelligence which might supply it among themselves if there were disappointments abroad. It is not the object of this work to give a description of Derbyshire, nor of any of the remarkable places through which the route thither lay. Oxford, Blenheim, Warwick, Kenilworth, Birmingham, and C are sufficiently known. We got a raid! What is up? Yo. Neff. 12 people. Neff. I love a Neff raid. What's up, Neffers? Do y'all have a name? Do we have a name for the Neffiverse? The lore keepers? I do find myself in the Discord along with all of you. Oh, the bookworms, obviously, the bookworms. Guys, hi, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Did you guys have a Hitchhiker's Guide stream tonight? I'm so upset because Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is literally one of my favorite books. And this is what you were reading on Thursday nights, am I correct? Anyway, truly one of my favorite books. We were supposed to do that, but the ADHD said we can't do that, Dave. Hi! Thank you for the follow! Maisie! Thank you so very kindly. I appreciate you. Yo, Neff, thank you so much. It's funny, I'm almost done this chapter, but I'm happy to ADHD around as well. So it's one of my favorite books, but I always stream on Thursday nights, so I can never tune in because our streams clash with each other. But look what I just got the other day, for free, mind you. Hold on. Ugh, on the old bookshelf over here. Isn't she lovely? Isn't she wonderful? Isn't she precious? The ultimate hitchhiker. I can't believe unabridged we'd be, holding one as lovely as she. But isn't she lovely? Gold edges. Like, come on. Mine's from 1990. Yes. No. Don't get me wrong. I love an old book. In fact, I usually am not even like a book collector person. I don't even hold on to books. I get them from the library. And if I if I do happen to buy a book or have a physical copy that is my own, I usually give it away and give it to a friend or put it in a little free library when I'm done. Um, but this one came into my hands because a coworker at my job was like, someone dropped this off in our donation bin, and I know you really like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, so I held on to it for you. And we love my coworker, Virginia. And I was just really happy that she thought of me and told me and like wanted to hold on to this for me. Look at the inside. It's got the little planets with the tongues. Um, Virginia, you are a saint. Someone donated it? Yes. Yes. For real, for real. Um, okay, brainworms, bookworms. Brainworms currently ahead. Cool. I love it. Well, welcome, brainworms and bookworms alike. I'm Juana. I do streams. I also go by JP, whatever you want to call me. I like both. Um, I do streams here. I do read aloud streams, usually once a week, and I do read alouds of longer form books. So right now I'm reading Pride and Prejudice, but I also do a lot of poetry read aloud streams. And I'm always happy to take requests. So if you're like, I want a Mary Oliver night or a whatever night, just let me know. I'm happy to do one of those streams. Um, and and my brain just, you know what I mean? Um, And I do read alouds of picture books, children's books as well. So that's kind of what I do here. But sorry, most of the streams that I do are actually co-working streams. So if that's your vibe, I go live doing work from home and writing a few times a week. So yes, welcome to my side of the internet. Thank you for the follow. What's up? Yo, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Um, so yeah, how are you all doing? I know, 150 followers. We're getting there. We are getting there. It's a pretty good number. It's a pretty good number, I'll say. I'll say it. Um, okay, wait. Yes, Virginia is a saint. We love her. Pretty sure your stepmom has the same copy. Love that. When I die, somewhere is going to receive a fantastic book collection. Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. I love that. Put that in the will. Put that in the will. Yo, I want to make my will. Like, I'm 26, but I think I should make it now. You know, anything could happen. And, I need someone to know what to do with. I mean, I honestly don't even really care about that much stuff, but um perhaps someone could get like my books, my clothes, my record player, my rainbow pride flag. I mean, the possibilities are endless. Um, think about Rafiki. There's nothing wrong with keeping a will if you own stuff that would be distributed. I have no one to bequeath my stuff to other than my cat. Yeah, now that I think about it, I have no idea who would get or want my stuff. So I guess it would all end up being donated anyway. So I guess it doesn't really matter. Hi, Alice. What is up? How are you? Um, I feel bad for whoever gets my library. Most would likely fall apart if I don't fix them. You got some old crusty books. Got some old crusty books. Kitran. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I I have my little chat all the way over here. Mind why I keep looking over. The pro tip, leave your info like life insurance policy and all that shit private. Yo, thanks for the follow. Ah, y'all are too sweet. J Lark Song. What a cool username. J Lark Song. Do you like Jays? Do you like larks? Do you like songs? Um like completely private. Okay, Rafiki. I see that. You're okay? How am I? I'm glad you're okay. Okay doesn't sound as good as like good or great. So if you feel like you'd like to expand, please do. I'm okay as well. I've had a day. Was dealing with some car trouble this morning. Also, the truth, Chi, is that I'm about to get my period, so my emotions are just like out of my control completely. So that sent me into a whole mental spiral. Also, family was just being family today, which, is family and I love them, but goddamn, you know. Um, but then I went to work and I'm really lucky because I love my job and I say that genuinely. And my job put me in a much better mood because I got to do some fun things at work, which was lovely. And then I came home and I had a leftover Wawa hoagie, which was incredible. And so that really turned my night around. So, yes, and now I'm here with y'all and I'm reading a book, which is kind of perfect. So my day turned around. Um, oh, Jay likes axolotls. Wait. Oh no, 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 I read that right. I thought you were trying to tell me that I had read it wrong. Um, Jay, LOL, and I like birds. Ooh, I like birds too. Birds are cool. My friends are getting me into birding. I'm not really a birder, but I can identify a bird or two now, and I do really love that. Um, Jay likes axolotls. I love axolotls. I had an axolotl phase. But now the phase that has kind of stuck around is whales. But I was looking around my room because I feel like I go through animal phases a lot, and then people give me trinkets and such dedicated to those animal obsessions that I have, but I don't see any axolotls around. But there are some whales. Whale. There's a whale up there that you can't see. Um, yeah. Um, your name is based off of a group in your LARP game. Freaking nerd. Love that. Love that so much. Um, likes is an understatement. I love that for you. Just tired. Haven't slept since a neuro flare a month ago. Also, uterus explosion time. Oh, goddamn. Yeah, I feel that premenopause plus uterus explosion, crying for a week. I can imagine. That sucks. I am so sorry to hear that. You like me. You really, really like me. Anyway, I've been Lottle obsessed since I since I was a teen, I have a tattoo of an axolotl. That's so cool. That's great. I love tattoos of little guys. I have a snail tattoo on my ankle. Tattoos should be wholesome. Also, they don't have to be wholesome, but it's kind of fun when they are. Um, so I love that for you. Hell yeah. Um, Hell yeah. I love that. Well, welcome. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate you. Um, it's your own art. That's so sick. I love that. That's so cool. Yes, you can see the snail tat. Let me put on socks so that I'm not showing you my feet. And then I will do that. This is my sock drawer. Um, Probably a pic in the library somewhere. Ooh, okay. I'll have to do a deep dive of the library. I'm guessing by the library you mean the Discord. Okay, let's see. We got do a little maneuver here. We got the snail. It's the snail from Adventure Time. It's the little guy. Yep, that's the snail tat, and that was that angle. So you're welcome. Um, Bam. I have another tattoo right here. Oh, no, I don't. It's on the other arm. Oh my god. This is my Don Quixote tattoo. Bam. We love a little literary tattoo. So yeah, those are my tats. Those are my only tats. Yes, me too. I have a confession to make about that tattoo though. I've only read like half of Don Quixote. Yee. But it's a long book. But I got the Don Quixote tattoo because my name is Juana. My family's from Spain. So there's like the Spanish tie-in, you know. I like Don Quixote, but mostly it relates to my family because I have two older brothers, and my mom will always comment that sometimes my two brothers are kind of like Don Quixote and Sancho Panza in the way that like Don Quixote, my oldest brother, is like always trying to save the world and fix problems and like is just kind of wild and wonderful in that way. And Joey is so chill all the time. Like he just wants you to sit down and eat and chill out. And we say that Ian and Joey are like Don Quixote and Sancho Panza. So the tat relates to the brothers and the culture. Um and I do appreciate Don Quixote, but I have to finish the book sometime. I've been listening to the audiobook on and off for literal years now. Um, and one day I'll finish it. Why do you love Don Quixote, Alice? It's such a specific thing to love. Um, I have a Discord. Okay, cool, 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 cool. Cool, 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 cool. Well, I'm gonna take another sippy of my tea. No, I haven't seen it. Visions of Quixote painting by Octavio Ocampo. No, I'll have to look it up. I will have to look it up. Thank you for telling me about it. I appreciate that. But yeah, anyway, hi, welcome to the family. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you all. Shall I? I'm almost done this chapter, but feel free to distract me. Also, feel free to throw in chat. I like to ask people when they come into my channel to give me high, low kudos if you'd like. So you can feel free to tell me what the high of your day has been. One good thing. A low, tell me anything that's bothered you or whatever. And then give kudos to one person from your day. So choose one person to appreciate or thank or congratulate or such. And feel free to send those if you'd like. I'm going to read a little bit more. I'll read your responses. Yeah. Thanks for all the follows. Oh, my heart is just bursting with joy. Where was I? Okay. With the mention of Derbyshire, there were many ideas connected. It was impossible for her to see the word without thinking of Pemberley and its owner. But surely, said she, I may enter his country, impunity, and rob it of a few petrified spars without his perceiving me. The period of expectation was now doubled. 4 weeks were to pass away before her uncle and aunt's arrival. But they did pass away, and Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner, with their 4 children, did at length appear in Longbourn. The children, 2 girls of 6 and 8 years old, and 2 younger boys, were to be left under the particular care of their cousin Jane, who was a general favorite, and whose steady sense of sweetness of temper exactly adapted her for attending to them in every way, teaching them, playing with them, and loving them. The Gardiners stayed only one night at Longbourn, and set off the next morning with Elizabeth in pursuit of novelty and amusement. One enjoyment was certain, that of suitableness as companions, a suitableness which comprehended health and temper to bear inconveniences, cheerfulness to enhance every pleasure, and affection and intelligence which might supply it among themselves if there were disappointments abroad. It is not the object of this work to give a description of Derbyshire, nor of any of the remarkable places through which their route thither lay. Oxford, Blenheim, Warwick, Kenilworth, Birmingham, and C are sufficiently known. A small part of Derbyshire is all the present concern. To the little town of Lambton, a scene of Mrs. Gardiner's former residence, where she had lately learned that some acquaintance still remained, and they bent their steps, after having all the principal wonders of the country. And within 5 miles of Lambton, Elizabeth found from her aunt and Pemberley was situated. It was not in their direct road, no more than a mile or 2 out of it. In talking over their route with the evening before, Mrs. Gardiner expressed an inclination to see the place again. Mrs. Gardiner declared his willingness, and Elizabeth was applied for her approbation. My love, should not you like to see a place of which you have heard so much? Said her aunt. A place, too, which so many of your acquaintance are connected. Wickham passed all his youth there, you know. Elizabeth was distressed. She felt she had no business at Pemberley, and was obliged to assume a disinclination for seeing it. She must own that she was tired of great houses. After going over so many, she really had no pleasure in fine carpets or satin curtains. Mrs. Gardiner abused her stupidity. If it were merely a fine house, richly furnished, said she, I should not care about it myself, but the grounds are delightful. They have some of the finest woods in the country. Elizabeth said no more, but her mind could not Aquinas. No, that's not it. Acquiescence? Acquiesce? I don't know. The possibility of meeting Mr. Darcy while viewing the place instantly occurred. It would be dreadful. She blushed at the very idea and thought it would be better to speak openly to her aunt than to run such a risk. But against this, there were objections, and she finally resolved that it could be the last resource if her private inquiries as to the absence of the family were unfavorably answered. Accordingly, when she retired at night, she asked the chambermaid whether Pemberley were not at a very fine place, what was the name of its proprietor, and, with no little alarm, whether the family were down for the summer. A most welcome negative followed the last question, and her alarms being now removed, she was at leisure to feel a great deal of curiosity to see the house herself. And when the subject was revived the next morning, she was again applied to, could readily answer, and with a proper air of indifference, she had not really any dislike to the scheme. To Pemberley, therefore, they were to go. I wonder who she's gonna run into there. Anyway, okay, that was the end of Volume 2, Chapter 19 of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Yay. All right, well, that is the stream. I'd be happy to send you somewhere else, however. Let me see where I can send you all. Neff Raiders, thank you again for being here. Neff, you're amazing for bringing your squad, and I don't know, I appreciate you all. Thank you for all the follows too, and I hope the Hitchhiker's Guide / chatting hanging out stream went really well. Let me see where I can send you. Hold on. Who shall we raid? Twitch. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Na 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 na. Do no 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 no. La 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 la. All right, shall we send you to animals? Or shall we send you to Mycopsycho? I think we're going to send you to some animal stream. How about that? You want to look at some animals? I think there's a cow. Perhaps a monkey. All right, I'm going to send you there. Oh, no, wait, hold on. Before I do that, actually. Yeah. All right, I hope you enjoy some cute animals. Thank you all for being here. And I will see you real soon. All right.